Hey guys, thanks for joining us here at Salty Ginger Talk. If you're a returning listener, it's great to have you back. If you're new to the channel, really glad you joined us. Hope you like what you hear. So, got another great guest on today. Jill is a career forensic scientist and has also started her own coaching business, targeted largely at introverted women in leadership roles. She works with everybody, but that's who her target audience is. But her message is so good. She talks about mindset. She talks about how to deal with extroverts when you're an introvert, how to deal with corporate world when you're an introvert, and how to continue to pursue leadership roles while being authentic in how you behave. So I think you're going to absolutely love it. She's got a great disposition. She's super smart. She covers the topics with such good advice and actionable items. That's one of the things I love about Jill's approach to everything. So without further ado, let's bring her on to the channel now. So Jill, welcome to Salty Ginger Talk. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. We had Jill and I had a great conversation a little over a month ago at this point.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to love her story because she comes at a lot of the topics that we talk about from a different perspective, a couple of different ways. One, she is very naturally an introvert and has built a great, first, she built a great career in forensics and in big organizations and has learned a lot from that. And she took those learnings and has opened up her own coaching business that focuses largely on women, introverted women in leadership positions to help them on some mindset stuff, to help them be naturally who they are, but still get their voices heard and take those leadership positions. So, going to be very interesting topic because I am not qualified in any way, shape, or form to talk about it from the perspective that Jill is capable of. So, really happy about that. So, with all of me running on at the mouth here, Jill, why don't I kick it over to you? If you could just start at the beginning, talk a little bit about coming out of school and going to university and what led you to a career in forensics.
Yeah. Wow. So this is going back, isn't it? So when I was at college, we have that careers kind of advice talk, and I wasn't sure what I wanted. I always enjoyed science. And during that kind of careers talk, that's when they said, "Oh, have you thought about forensic science?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, that sounds really interesting." So from that point on, I just kind of looked into it a bit more, and I was like, "Yeah, I really like the sound of that." And then after college, I went and applied for university, but then a job came up for forensic examiners. And I thought, well, I'll go for it. I'll see what happens. And ended up getting the role. So I then decided to defer my place at university for a year so that I still had that if I wanted to go ahead and do that. But yeah, so started work, examining items from crime scenes, etc. And yeah, loved it so much that I then just, said, no, I'm not going to go to university. But actually, what happened is my work then paid for me to do university on day release. So I ended up doing that, and obviously work paying for it. So even better. So I wasn't ended up in debt. I'm sort of like, making money at the same time and yeah, going up the pay scale. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into forensics in the first place. And I don't think it was until later on that I kind of realized just how well that fit in with my kind of skills and my strengths. As introverts in general, we kind of like that focus work. It's kind of more kind of that working on your own, but still having that kind of group around you if you need it. And so actually it really did, tie in with my strengths quite well. Just kind of that focus, that data, that meticulous work, and then writing, your notes and everything, and being very clear with your language on, what you found and where you found it, etc. Like, body fluids and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I went straight out of college and went into that job. And yes, was basically you've been there for 27 years.
Wow.
Doing that career and working my way up to actually going to court and reporting cases as well in court. So Obviously, again, with that, it's all about that written, kind of clear written communication and standing up in court to give evidence as well. So it's all about being very clear with your language so that people don't make assumptions on things that perhaps, you haven't said or you don't mean. But yeah, so funny how I kind of ended up in it, it wasn't really a plan, but it just all tied in with, my strengths, my skills, etc. So yeah, that's how I got into forensic science.
Very cool. Do you specialize in any specific areas of forensics? Like, do you do fibers? Do you do footprint? Are you, how does it work?
Yeah, so well, over the years, I've done most things. So I've done fibers, I've done footmarks, but mainly it was sort of body fluid evidence. So looking for blood, semen, saliva, on clothing and cells as well, and things like that. So yeah, so it was specialising in what you call like your old school forensics rather than the digital side of forensics. And that's kind of where I've kind of kept my career throughout really, is in that field.
Very cool. You must have seen some both interesting and disturbing things in your career.
Yes, definitely. I have been to a couple of crime scenes, but not many. But yeah, you obviously hear about a lot of different things because you're reading circumstances of cases and um yeah, you see pictures and you're looking at weapons and things like that. So yeah, it's I guess it can affect you, but then I guess you wouldn't go into that career if it was something that affected you quite easily. So I haven't ever felt massively affected by my job. And I think that, yes, I've seen horrible things in pictures, but when I see things in pictures, it almost doesn't feel real to me. I can kind of compartmentalize that from reality, even though it is reality. But if you know what I mean, I'm not sort of like, I haven't been at a crime scene and there's been a body there that I've had to kind of stand next to, because I've always loved kind of horror movies as well. That was one of my things that I used to like. And so I thought, oh, if I ever had to go to a crime scene and there was a body there, I'll probably be like, oh my God, it's going to wake up. So no,
Oh
I've
my
not done
gosh.
that.
Yeah, that's very funny. What what is it about forensics? And you'd said you'd always been into kind of attracted to science. What is it about
Mm.
that you think attracted you to those studies, that particular area?
I think it was, not finding out more about our bodies. I always loved biology as well, and psychology, just about how our minds work and how we interact with people, and our behavior and our actions and all those kind of things that really just really interested me. So I just think I've always really enjoyed finding out more about how we tick as humans, right? So yeah, I think that's probably where it came from.
Sure, that makes sense. So as you move through your career, you probably were able to put a lot of your professional learnings to use as you kind of climb the ladder and develop relationships and things like that. Can you talk a little bit about how kind of some of that evolution happened? Because you started, and look, all of us do this, but yours is your own story. You started as kind of an individual contributor and kind of kept taking on increasing roles. The job turns into something different when you
Mm.
move up the ladder, right? And as an introvert, I'm sure you started to run up against things where you're like, hey, this isn't really what I signed up for. This doesn't really excite me the same way some of the other stuff did. Talk a little about some of those situations as you worked your way through your career.
Yeah, so I suppose that when I first went from being an examiner to what you call reporting cases in court, I wasn't sure how I would take to that, because like standing up and talking in public was not something that I particularly enjoyed and will probably shy away from a little bit at times. So I did think I'd find that quite stressful and, anxiety inducing almost. Which it definitely did at the start. And I think that you didn't tend to go to court as probably as much as what you should have. And so then when it did come around, you'd always be thinking, oh my God, I've got to go and give evidence in court. What if I mess up? What if I do something wrong? What if I say something wrong? Um, but the training was amazing to kind of get you through that. And then obviously you've got all of your kind of colleagues around you who've got years of experience that you can kind of talk things through, and just discuss things so that you're clear in your own mind, what you can, what you can't say. So when I first went for that role, I didn't actually get the position. And I remember thinking, oh, great. Like, one thing that I've always struggled with is maths. So maths has never been a strong point for me. And
Hmm.
at the time, you needed to be able to look at like DNA profiles and do lots of calculations and things. And so I always thought, oh, well, that's basically why I didn't get that role at the time. But then as we moved and shifted, that became like the people that did the DNA was a different department. So you didn't have to do that kind of calculation sort of side of things anymore. So it was just, looking for the evidence and providing a report, and then obviously talking about how your evidence relates to the circumstances that you've been given, etc., like that. So then when I went for it again, that's when I did get that position. And yeah, it's a big step up. You're now responsible for making decisions on what you're going to examine, what you're going to send for DNA, and then obviously how you interpret that evidence against the information that you have been given. And yeah, so it was a big responsibility. And I think to start off with, I did struggle a little bit with my confidence, my self-confidence. I'd ask a lot of other people, you're like, oh, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? Rather than thinking first, well, what do I think? Yeah, and so then people will go to, well, what do you think? And I go, oh, I'm not sure. When and everyone knows, you can do your job, you're good at your job. Like, just think about what you think before you ask other people. So that was kind of something that I felt, yeah, where my confidence was lacking. It was in that my ability. And also I'd find that I would probably work a bit slower than other people, just because I was quite meticulous. That perfectionism was there. I don't want to get anything wrong. This is really important work. I don't want to get the wrong evidence, all that kind of stuff. Ultimately, you don't want to put the wrong person in prison. So it felt like a big responsibility, yeah, on your shoulders. And then moving through that again, you then line manage people as well. So that was a new kind of addition to what I was doing before. But I actually really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed developing people. So I did a lot of training as well. So I did a lot of, when I was an examiner, I trained individuals in actually doing the examinations. I went to Abu Dhabi and I did training in Abu Dhabi for their police department as well. So that was a massive pull outside of my comfort zone, going to another country with different culture. And ultimately me with red hair, very white skin, going to, a Muslim country on
I can
my own as a
I
female.
can I can empathize on the ginger part for sure, and the white skin for sure.
But yeah, I remember kind of walking around, back then because I was there on my own effectively. And, all the men would just sort of stare at you, and it was quite off-putting. It was like, oh, okay, this is a bit different. Um, so yeah, I always had that passion for developing other people, training, mentoring. And so I found the line management side of things just almost an extension of that, because ultimately that's what I enjoy doing, and trying to help them to move up to the level that I was at, because that's the natural kind of career progression, if that's what they were interested in, and how I could help and mentor them and give them kind of bits to do to so that they could see what we did in that role as well. Because I think it's difficult when you're in a particular role, you don't know the ins and outs of how the step up is. So yeah, so I really enjoyed the line management side of things. And yeah, I think I then kind of got to a point in my career where it's very stressful. Okay, you got lots of work. I was working, I'd had children by that point, so I was working part-time, but also I think I ended up having more work than a full-time person. And being part-time as well, I think I certainly had that kind of voice in my head, whereas, I've got to prove myself because um, I'm part-time and I don't want the full-time people thinking, oh, she's not doing her share of work kind of thing. She's just clocking off at this hour, or she's not here half the week, or, whatever that is, that's the stories I was kind of telling myself. And so, yeah, so I took on more work because I didn't want people to be having that judgment of me. But ultimately ended up getting in this point where I was just stressed out, had too much work, and didn't really get a great deal of support at the time from my line manager. So it was at that point where I was like, right, I've got to change things here. I can't do this forever. I've got 2 kids at home now. I want to be with them and have that time with them because it's short, isn't it? Right. So, I don't want to be missing out on things. And so I also identified this kind of discomfort, if you like, of speaking in front of people. So I was like, I've always been someone who wants to make things better. So if something isn't working, I'll look, how can we change it? How can we make it better? I won't just kind of sit and wallow and just carry on. So yeah, so I noticed that, I didn't particularly enjoy this public speaking, and I knew that I needed to develop in that area. So kind of this opportunity came up at work, which was to have a secondment for 5 months where I would go and co-facilitate a leadership course at work. And that's kind of where I first heard about coaching. I never heard of coaching before, never had any form of coaching. And I had to kind of learn this material, stand up, facilitate with another individual. So again, that felt easier. It didn't feel like a massive push out of your comfort zone because you had someone else there as your support. It wasn't like you're standing there doing it all on your own. And actually quite enjoyed doing that. When I know what I'm talking about, I actually quite enjoyed it, I realized. When I was talking about something I was passionate about, I quite enjoyed it. And out of that, I ended up getting my coaching accreditation. So it was about coaching our new promotes in kind of self-development, in leadership, and around their kind of personality style as well. So when I ended up, that secondment ended and I came back into my department again, I remember feeling really kind of like it felt quite oppressive again because I'd come out of an office environment, an open plan office environment, which, as an introvert struggled with that focus and concentration, especially in a role where you're having to write statements that are going into court. And I remember asking my boss before this secondment, I'd really like to work from home 1 day a week just so that I can have that space to do my focus work. And they said, no, I'm sorry, we can't do that. And so I was like, oh, right, okay. So when I came back into that environment again, at the end of 2019, so this was just before COVID, as I say, I felt really kind of, it was oppressive. I felt like I was micromanaged again. I'd come from working from home all the time, planning my day to fit how I wanted to work, to coming back into an office environment, being micromanaged, like, what have you done today? If you work from home, I need to have a full record of what you've done. And I just felt like, well, I've just been treated like an adult, and now I don't feel like I'm being treated like an adult again, almost.
Right.
And yeah, so I think again that was quite a pivotal moment for me because I'd just done something that I'd found a massive passion for, coaching, another kind of, again, another arm of developing people and helping people, grow. And so coming back and then just going back into my role again, I just was like, I can't do this forever. Something needs to change. I've really enjoyed the coaching space and I've got that passion back for, learning something new. Because I think up to that point, I've just almost resigned myself to, well, this is what I'll do for the rest of my life. I'll just be in this role because there wasn't a great deal of career pathways to go through. And so I just almost resigned myself to, well, this is what I'll do until I retire, kind of thing, and lost the passion for it a little bit. Um, so yeah, so when I came back, that's when I started thinking, well, what else can I do? And this is where that coaching came in, how, that enjoyment for coaching, and thought, well, probably the only way to go about that is to have your own business. Because at the time I was thinking, oh, I don't think you can work for another organization and be a coach. Obviously, still at that point, didn't know that much about coaching. But so what happened is someone was doing a webinar at work about it was about life coaching, therapy, hypnotherapy, and I went to this webinar and I was listening in, and he was he was a police officer previously, and he'd started up his own business. And I was like, right, well, he's done it. I need to speak to him about how to do this because I don't know how to do it. So I contacted him on LinkedIn actually, and ended up having just a chat with him, and thinking it was going to be like a 5 or 10 minute chat about, how have you done this? What can I do? And we ended up chatting for about 2 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember my mother-in-law was here and she was looking after the kids for me. I was like, yeah, I'll only be 10 minutes. And then sort of 2 hours later, she was like, oh, I need to go home now. I was like, I'm really sorry. But yeah, he then was sort of talking about how he went about it, went on a course to start his own business. And I'd say probably a week later, I'd joined this course, and suddenly I'm now thinking, right, okay, business. I'm going to start my own business. So it all happened quite quickly, but yeah, still continued in my role at work. And then, of course, COVID happened, and we were all working from home quite a lot. I still had to go into the office at times, but it was more working from home than it was in the office. And then, after that all happened, I mean, that was obviously a very stressful time for everybody, wasn't it? It was just horrific trying to, because the courts didn't stop. Maybe not in person, but they were still virtual. And so I still had a massively heavy workload. I've got two children who are quite young, who are off school, who I'm now having to homeschool. My husband's working full time as well. And it was just horrific. It was awful. I just remember thinking, I can't do this. I've had a found respect for teachers because I was like, I don't know how you do this. I just don't. It's awful trying to teach two children different things at the same time that both want your attention. And I just remember thinking, I think my head's going to explode. It's too much. And I remember having to do a virtual call at home. And I was thinking, how am I going to do this? Like, what if the kids walk in while I'm giving evidence? It's just, the stress was just immense.
Mm,
Um, but luckily, we managed to get the kids into school as key workers eventually. And so they were at school when I had to do that virtual court, which I was pleased about because I just thought, God, I just wouldn't want them to walk in or hear anything or yeah, so it was stressful, a very stressful time. But yeah, so I after COVID, we could work at home more, so that was helpful. I was able to kind of do that focus work at home a bit more, but still I had that feeling of actually now I'm learning all these new things, about how to run a business and starting up a business and social media and all of this new stuff that I hadn't had to kind of think about before. And I it just lit me up inside. I had that passion. I was learning things again, which it felt like I hadn't had that for so long. And also it felt good to be doing something else for me. I was doing something for myself rather than, you know, working for someone else, if that makes sense.
completely. Yeah. No, completely makes sense. It's interesting
Um,
though, because you'd never thought about opening or running your own business previous to this, had
Never.
you?
I never thought I would be even capable of doing such a thing. It was never a dream. I know people have a dream that I just want to be my own boss. No, that was never a dream that I had. Um, and so yeah, it was it was hard at the start because I had to do a big mindset journey around um, why am I doing this? And can I do it? And should I be doing it? It was all those kind of questions. Um, but I think the stress, the pressure, the volume of work that I had, it was like, I can't do this forever. If I carry on doing this, I'm going to burn out. There's going to be mental health issues because I can't do it all, and something's got to change. So, it was hard, but staying and going through that would have been harder. That makes sense.
No, completely. And it's funny. It's one of the things we talk about on the podcast a lot is everybody's going to suffer and have hard times. You should choose how you want to
You are.
suffer because let's just say let's just take junk food for example, right? Um, you can suffer when you drive by the donut shop or the bakery or the fast food place, whatever your thing is, and say, "Oh
Mm,
man, that really looks good, but I probably shouldn't." And so you suffer then, but the long-term goal, the long-term benefit is you're healthier, you maintain a healthy weight,
yeah.
you're more active, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
Or you can give in and you can feel good now, but you're going to suffer later. And it's been my experience in life that typically when you delay gratification, the payoff is exponentially higher down the road than whatever
Definitely.
instant gratification you would get right now. So I think you intelligently and correctly identified that, hey, if I delay some of my gratification now and push through this hard spot, I've identified something that could lead me to a place that's really good, but I'm going to have to suffer a little bit right now to
Yeah.
do it. So I'm going to have to juggle the forensics role. I'm going to have to juggle the kids and the schooling and the starting up the new business, but there's going to be a payoff for me somewhere down the
Yeah.
road. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think you said that. I think you covered that well.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? How, at the end of, I think it was the end of 2021, I felt like that's when I was starting to suffer real burnout, which is when I actually signed up to this business course to start my business. And I remember thinking at the time, yeah, I'm nearly at burnout because I've got too much work, too much stress, and I'm actually now giving myself more work
Yeah,
because I'm
exactly. The
starting a
fuck am I
course to
doing
start
here?
a business. It's like, what am I doing?
Oh my
But
gosh. No, it's totally the
personal
truth.
growth. It was
Hmm.
personal growth. And so it didn't feel, I think the benefits of what I was gaining from it outweighed, actually, I'm now working more than I was before.
But you like what you're doing, right? And it's foot like the benefit inures directly to you. There is no third party. You're not a cog in the wheel. You don't have someone saying, no, do it this way. No, you can't work from home. Tell me what you did
Yeah.
when you worked from home. Report to me like you're 7 years old
Yeah.
and tell me exactly when you worked, when you didn't, when did you have lunch,
Yeah.
when did you go to the bathroom? Like, what the fuck is going on here? Am I back in grade school or
Yeah.
what? What the hell?
Exactly.
Right? So
Yeah.
no, it totally makes sense to me. And we just did a podcast, or the episode we aired yesterday talked about forcing yourself to be uncomfortable because I think in society, and clearly you can tell from Jill's accent, she's in the UK and I'm in the
Yep.
United States. In the United States, there is this big push for everyone to be comfortable all the time, and it's fucking bullshit. It's wrong. It's not what's good for people, and we have to
Yeah.
get away from it as a society. We have to start telling people, toughen up a little bit. I don't care that your feelings are hurt. I don't care that this is wrong in your life.
Yeah.
That's not a real, you're making up problems. That's not a real problem. Get with the
Yep.
program, push yourself a little bit. And
Yeah.
you did that for yourself and you're reaping the benefits of it now, but it's hard. I'm
Yeah.
sure this is something you talk about with your clients and with the
Yeah.
people that you coach because you've talked multiple times about being introverted, yet you put yourself in in multiple situations where you're standing up in front
Yeah.
of large groups of people talking about stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's not
Yeah,
comfortable.
exactly. It's not comfortable. And that's when you talk about that kind of getting out of your comfort zone. And it is a stretch and it is uncomfortable. And all you can do is get used to being uncomfortable because when you're getting uncomfortable, that is when you're truly growing and learning new things. Because staying where it's comfortable and where you know everything, well, you're not going to learn anything doing that. You're just sticking with what you already know. So, okay, well, if you're happy with that, that's great. But actually, by doing that, you're preventing yourself from going for other opportunities that might arise. Because you're holding yourself back in that kind of bubble that's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I don't want to step out of this. And a kind of another thing that I talk about is something that I've experienced myself. So I said that I'd gone when I originally went from examiner to reporting. I didn't originally get that role, and I also then went for the next role up from reporting, but didn't get that either. And I remember thinking, oh, should I go for it or not? And this is a lot of things that introverts tend to do is they end up talking themselves out of stuff. So I just remember thinking, oh, yeah, it looks like a lot more hassle. I've got to have to line manage a lot of people, like a whole team. I'm going to have like even more work. So I'll have like, something else like that I've got to look after as well as the work, as well as the team. And I was just thinking that's just going to be a lot of stress. And is it really worth the extra money? And that's what I started telling myself. And I ended up backtracking, going, yeah, I don't want that job anyway. God, I literally saved myself there from a massive disaster that I could have got this role. So I talked myself out of even like the second time of even going for it. I was like, why would I want to do that? And it's funny how that happens a lot, right? Again, it comes down to what information is in those role descriptions as well. This is kind of where we go with the extrovert bias, which is, rife in companies. And what happens is that your introverted staff might look at this role description, and especially if it's maybe a leadership role or whatever, it could be like, oh, we're looking for someone who's really outgoing, who's charismatic, a command a room, assertive, all this kind of language that, an introvert will be like, well, that's not me. I'm not in this. I'm not that, I'm not out there chatting to everyone all the time. And so therefore, actually, I don't think I've got the skills to even go for it. So that's holding people back from even applying for something because of the language that's used in those positions and in those vacancies. So that's kind of another thing that, I talk about quite a lot because I've been through it. I've held myself back. I've gone for it, not got the job. But yeah, then managed to tell myself that, oh God, I'm glad I got away with that. I didn't get it because I don't want it.
Yeah, it's and I know we'll get to it in further detail because it's one of the things you talked about in your profile that I want to cover. But that self-talk is so important. And so I learned how to be uncomfortable through athletics. So I'm fortunate that so I don't know if fortunate's the right word. So I was fortunate I was born with an athletic body. So like I'm a big, strong guy and always have been.
Yeah.
But I worked my ass off to put myself in good situations as it relates to athletics and school and those kind of things. So I went through college
Yeah.
on a baseball scholarship. And I know you don't have a lot of baseball in the UK, but it's a pretty popular sport in the United States. And it's similar to cricket. And so, I was one of the guys that pitched. So I threw the pitches.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and in baseball, that's like a lonely position because you're the only one that does it. Everybody else is trying to catch the ball and get guys out, and they all hit, and you typically don't. But if you throw a pitch and somebody hits it a really long way, that's instantaneous feedback that you did a bad job. Like there's no hiding it. You know what happened. Everybody just saw it happen. They saw you throw it. They
Yeah.
saw the other guy hit it a long way. And by the way, there's about probably about 5,000 people at the games I played in. So it wasn't an
Yeah.
insignificant, I didn't play professionally. There's tens of thousands of people at those games. But, some of them were on TV and some of them were in front of 5,000 people. And so, like, you're going to fail. That's just how the world works. You're not going to run the table and everything's not going to go your way. And in that sport, if they hit a home run, it goes over the fence. The umpire will give you a new ball. And so while that guy is circling the bases, that's how you score runs in baseball. You get about 30 seconds. And so while that's happening, the umpire will give you a new ball and you're kind of rubbing it down to make sure you're ready to go again. But in 30 seconds, it's time to go again. You don't get to feel
Yeah.
sorry for yourself. You don't
No.
get to cry about it. You don't get to make excuses. You don't get to hide. It's time to go again. And if you're
Yeah.
not ready, there's other guys that pitch. They'll just come take you out of the game, which you don't want to happen.
No,
And
exactly.
they'll put somebody else in there. So you've got to make the adjustments and you've got to toughen up right now. And I've been fortunate that that mentality translated really well to both my personal and professional life. And so,
Mm.
like, I've been with my wife for 33 years because when things get hard, we deal with it. We don't
Yeah.
run from it. We don't make excuses. We don't pretend it's not happening. And you've got to own your share of it. And I try
Yeah.
to do that. I think I'm good at it, better at it than most people. I'm not perfect. There's still times I want to go, well, fuck this. This isn't really my fault when it probably really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
You're married. You know us men are. We always think
Oh
everything's somebody
yeah.
else's. And my wife's a saint. She's an awesome lady. She's going straight to heaven for putting up with me for so long. But that self-talk is so important. Now, I'm fortunate that I'm naturally a pretty confident person. So I don't second
Mm.
guess myself a lot. But the way you just talked about your self-talk is very similar to how my wife talks about her self-talk, how a couple of my
Mm.
sons talk about their self-talk. And I think some of us are just wired to be more negative is not the right word, to be more cautious, right? I think it's
Yeah.
caution. I think it's pessimism.
Yeah.
I think it's rooted in safety at its core. Like, back when
Yeah.
we lived in caves, if you stuck your head out, the saber-toothed tiger could get you. If you
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
stick your head out, he couldn't get you, right? So
Yeah.
I'm the kind of guy who would stick my head out and get it bit off by a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
Well, while you'd be inside going, "Uh-oh, Joe got eaten."
Yeah. I'm not doing that.
But at some point you got to go out and get food too, right? So there's a balance between both
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, so I love how you talk about the self-talk. You also talked about something I wanted to go back to. You talked about working in an open floor plan as an introvert. And I hate the open floor plan. I'm not an introvert, but I hate
Mm.
the open floor plan. I think
Yeah.
it's a terrible existence for most people. It's very difficult to be productive in an open floor
Yeah.
plan, regardless of your how you're wired naturally. But
Yeah.
talk a little bit about how you coach people in that environment based on your experience, because there's so many people that
Mm.
work in a fishbowl and it's terrible. But
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do you
Yeah.
coach people to get through it?
Yeah. So it's all about utilizing the space that you have in a way that suits you. So a lot of businesses will have those kind of breakout rooms that they call them. So one thing that I always say is about if you're doing focus work, take yourself off into a breakout room, because then you can sit there and just concentrate on what you're doing. And not have those distractions. But I also find that if you are in the open plan office and you are trying to do that focus work, as soon as someone comes and distracts you and asks you for something or asks you a question, like I used to do, "Oh, what do you think about this?" It pulls you out of that focus mode and it
Yeah.
takes you so much longer to get back into it again. And yeah, so another thing is that I say is like use headphones. So again, if there isn't in that space that you can hide away in, those breakout rooms, to get some earphones. And stupidly, when I was at work, I never used earphones because I felt like people pleasing was coming out in me, and I felt like, well, what if I've got my earphones in and I'm focused and someone asks me a question and I don't respond because I haven't heard them, that I'd feel like, oh, that's really rude. They'd think I'm being really rude. Which is ludicrous, right? They'll know
Like
that,
you're trying
yeah,
to do your job. How's it wrong to try to do your job, right?
exactly, exactly. But these are the things I used to tell myself. So now I now will say, yeah, absolutely. Use earphones if you're doing focus work. Explain to people as well that you don't want to be distracted. I've seen people putting notes on the back of their chairs and things like that before if they're doing focus work. Please don't distract me. I'm in the middle of something. Um, so there's lots of different things that you can do to help with that. But I think the biggest one is is to talk to your team, to your line manager, to say, look, I'm an introvert. I struggle in that open plan environment, especially when I'm doing that focus work. So therefore, I'm either can I work from home? If that's a no, I'm going to take myself off into a separate room to do that work, or I'm going to be wearing earphones. And when I am doing that, please, can you not distract me? Because it's going to take me so much longer to get back into what I'm doing again. So yeah, I think they're the main kind of aspects, but there are individuals that love that open plan office. So because we talk about personality a lot, and we talk about the 4 different colors, and it's those kind of more flamboyant, chatty individuals that love that open plan area, because they get to find out about all the gossip and bounce ideas off of each other. So
I call them slackers. Those are the slackers. Like, sit down and get back to
yeah.
work. What are you doing wandering around talking to everybody?
Definitely. Yeah, I mean, if you can work from home when you're doing that focus work, that's obviously the best option. I know there's some people don't like working from home. People find that they get distracted by other things when they're at home, like the washing or housework or whatever. But I always found that I did so much more work when I was at home, because I could focus, I could get in the zone. Although now when you've got teams and stuff like that, and people teams you, and you're like, oh no. And the constant meetings, the meetings as well, it's just back to back meetings, and that again is not good for introverts, right? Because it just saps your energy when you're in meetings and you're having those social interactions with people. That's what drains your energy levels. And so again, another thing I'll say is to plan your day so that you aren't having those back-to-back meetings. And that was something that I had, where I was expected to go into back-to-back meetings almost all day, and I said to my line manager, I'm not doing that. I'm telling you now that I'm not going to do that. I want at least 15 minutes break in between the meetings, because what I would find is I'd come straight out of one meeting, go into another, and I'm like, I don't even know what this meeting's about, and I've got to speak in this meeting, and I don't know what's going on. I haven't prepared. You need that preparation time to know, what you want to say, what the meeting's about, what are your views on that, but also to get your energy levels back up again and recover from the last one. So yeah, so that's something that I always made sure that I did. But that's when I'm doing that coaching, that's another sort of set thing to consider, is thinking about, well, what brings your energy levels up and what drains your energy levels, and making
Yeah.
sure that you plan your day so that you've got those energy boosters kind of throughout your day, so that you don't get to the end of the day going home feeling like you're just running out of the door and you just want to like sit in front of the TV and not talk to anyone, which is kind of where I had got to as well. I was so exhausted, stressed out, that I'd come home, and if the kids were still up and they'd like be calling for me to, say goodnight to them, and I'd be like, just go to sleep, just go to bed. Because I just couldn't. I was like, I've just walked in the door, I just need some time to myself. And then once you've come downstairs, you feel guilty. Oh, the
Yeah.
guilt was just horrific. Like, oh, why have I just done that? It's not their fault. Um, so yeah, so at all costs, you need to plan your day so that you're not, you're fitting in those energy boosters throughout your day, so that you're not getting to the end of it absolutely running on empty, and good for nobody apart from hiding away.
Yeah, and you had talked about people pleasing, and that one's interesting to me. Um, I have 2 questions on that. Well, so first, a statement. I think I told you when we talked, I was kind of born without the give a fuck gene. Like you can like me or not like me. I don't give a fuck. That's
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
But I'm an anomaly. I've always known, and I'm way out here on the bell curve statistically of people, and I've always known that I'm way out here on the bell curve on most things. Like, I think about things and see the world very differently than most people, and I'm fine with
yeah,
that. I'm okay with that. I've been okay with it for a long time. Even as a kid, I knew that, and I was okay with it.
yeah,
But most people are not that way. Most people really want to please other people. So my
yeah.
two questions on this are: one, do you think, or do you see in working with introverts, is that a common character? Is it more common with introverts than it is with extroverts? And two,
Absolutely.
how do you deal with that, or how do you get away from people pleasing when it's kind of wired into you like that? How did you deal with it? How do you coach your clients to deal with it?
Yeah, so firstly, absolutely, introverts are massive people pleasers, and more so than extroverts because not obviously, as you say, not everyone, but a lot of people have that I don't give a fuck gene. I would love to have that, but I don't have that at all. And
It's not
so,
always good, by the way. Everyone thinks they
no,
want it,
yeah,
but there are situations
some
where it's not good.
situation, yeah. And so the main way to counteract that people pleasing is to start putting in boundaries. So boundaries around your energy, right? So yeah, I could have just kept doing those back-to-back meetings, but I said to my boss, I'm like, I'm sorry, I'm not doing that. That's a no from me because otherwise I'm not performing at my best. And then you'll be on my case in my reviews to say, well, why haven't you done this? So actually, if you want me to perform better, this is my hard boundary. If you put a meeting in my calendar, I will not be attending until I've had a 15-minute break between. Which, yeah, she took it, but I'm not sure how pleased she was about it. She had no choice. I didn't give her a choice. I was like, I'm sorry, that's it. I'm not going to attend it. So don't put a meeting in my calendar right next to another one. And she'd make a point of it every time she did put a meeting in. She goes, oh well, I couldn't put it in there because what you said about wanting a break. And I was like, okay, yeah.
Perfect.
Um,
You heard me then.
yes, exactly. So it is about putting those boundaries in, which again is something that introverts can struggle with because of the people pleasing, and that the thought about putting a boundary in place is like a barrier, and people will be like, oh well, hang on a minute, you're not being very helpful kind of thing. But actually people respect you a lot more when you have boundaries. And I think it's just starting to during that coaching process is find out, okay, well, what are the issues that you're facing? How would you want to act in that scenario? And then, okay, well, how can we put a boundary around that? So then I kind of help them to put that boundary in place. And then, it is a case of no is a full sentence. You don't need to back your no up with why, because you already then start talking yourself out of the no. You go, well, no, what is it you need? Oh, well, maybe I could fit it in. No, I can't do it. I'm sorry, I'm too busy.
Yeah,
Um,
I love that. There's certain things that just don't, I feel like they don't occur to a lot of people. Like I've negotiated a lot of stuff in my life. I've been in roles where negotiation was necessary. And like, I enjoy it. I like it. I'm good at it. And so I don't know if I'm in them because I like it, or I like it because I like it. I'm in them, whatever. But one of the things I will always, not always, but I will do if I need to is just invoke a third party. Like you can
yeah,
always invoke a third party. So like if someone says I
yeah,
need an answer right now, I'll just say I can't give you an answer right now. I have to talk to my attorney. Now, I happen to have a lot of different attorneys that I deal with in different things in my life, but there doesn't necessarily need to be an attorney on the instance I'm talking about. I need to talk to my
yeah,
accountant. I need to run it by my wife. Like
yeah,
whatever. I can invoke a third party and
yeah,
buy myself some time. And like you
yeah.
said, no is a full sentence. You don't owe an explanation. Like
No,
you don't at all.
no.
So just say no.
Yeah, just say no and put those boundaries in place. But yeah, um, something came to my head then, but it's just popped out again. What was I going to say? Oh, so what you were saying about oh, no, it's gone. It'll come back. If I stop thinking about it, it'll come back.
I was going to say,
Sorry,
stop thinking about it and
totally
then
lost my train of thought there.
interrupt me when it pops back in your head. It's no problem whatsoever.
I will.
We want to hear from you, not me.
Let's hope it doesn't happen when I go to bed and I go, oh, I remembered it now.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Um, on the uh, so we did people pleasing. How did you
Mm,
choose coaching introverted women? There's lots of things you can coach on. Like you're in forensics, you were doing training. There's lots of ways you could have taken that. Why did you choose to focus? And I know you work with other people, but
yeah,
that's your focus is working with
yeah.
introverted women in leadership positions, if I remember right.
Yeah, yeah, because I, having the experience that I had in my corporate career and all of the challenges that I came up against, getting your voice heard in meetings, as we've already said, working in those open plan offices, being overlooked for promotion, and also the fact that there aren't many women in general in leadership positions. And so therefore, actually, female leaders is even smaller. And I'm like, well, actually, the reason I chose that niche is because introverts make amazing leaders. Okay, the strengths that they have of like empathy, of creativity, of building that kind of trusted environment, because they get deep on a deeper level with people and they have those kind of deeper relationships. They don't want to be in the limelight. They want to develop their team. They want them to take the center of attention, because they don't want that. They want their team to thrive. And so all of these things lend really well, especially for those more diverse teams, because you are considering more, how different people like to receive feedback, how they like to be in those meetings, all of those kind of things. You're more aware of things, especially with introverts as well. You're actively listening a lot, so you pick up on those kind of non-verbal cues that people have that they're not telling you. You are listening to understand that person's perspective rather than listening to respond, which again is another thing that you can find happens a lot, that people aren't, they take a little bit of what you've said, they've heard that, and then they start thinking, oh, I'm going to respond about this, but they haven't listened to the rest of it. So that's where those misunderstandings can happen. So actually, the reason I chose that niche is because I was like, well, businesses are massively losing out on the strengths that introverts have, and that's introverted men as well. It's not just introverted women. But I kind of went more for the introverted women because of the experience that I've had, and because I want to empower women, right? I know that you've got the strengths as an introverted woman to lead effective teams. And there's many introverts who are very ambitious and who want to, work their way up the ladder, and they've got some amazing ideas and how they can make the workplace better for everybody. But yeah, it seems that, they're constantly overlooked for that promotion opportunity because they're too quiet, or, they're not outgoing enough. And so it's like, well, actually, if you as a business realize that introverts make up like a third to half of your staff, if you're not being, putting processes in place or having ways that it suits the introverted staff members and how you can help them to thrive, you're just going to lose them. They're going to go off and do something else, probably a bit like me. They're just going to go, do you know what, I'm going to go and do my own thing. But they're some of your best workers. They're the ones that are quietly, diligently doing the work consistently, and they're going to walk out the door because you're not growing them. You're not helping them to move up into those leadership positions, which is, where they could get to and where they can really thrive. So that's why I have that passion for, helping those introverted female leaders, because again, I see a lot, those that do make it into leadership tend to copy what their peers are doing, and a lot of their peers are extroverts, and so they are trying to emulate what their extroverted peers are doing, because they think that's the only way they can be successful, or the way they can get their voice heard. And all that does is overwhelm them, burn them out, and make them feel like they're not good enough. So actually, why would anyone want to work somewhere where that's how it makes you feel? But so many people are. And so yeah, so I've always had a belief that you can do anything you put your mind to, and so that's kind of where my business has come from, in terms of I want other businesses to understand that you're losing out on something very special by not promoting the more introverted individuals in your staff.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I think you explained it really well. I'm looking, you had talked about in your bio to us, you had talked about something about wearing masks. I'm trying to find what you said because it was very
Yeah.
interesting to me. Um, I help my client and stop wearing an extroverted mask at work. What does that mean? Walk us through that a little bit.
Yeah, so that is what I was talking about, emulating
Yep.
what
Yeah,
their
you just touched on it
extroverted
a little
version
bit.
is.
Yeah. If
Yeah,
you would mind going
yeah.
deeper
So
on it, I'd love to hear it.
yeah. So, where extroverts are leading, they may be, as I say, kind of commanding that room, telling people what to do. They are making decisions really quickly, and so um, probably being really visible in terms of speaking to lots of people. And that isn't a natural way for an introvert to be. And so if they're trying to do that, that's what I mean by wearing that extrovert mask. They're kind of copying what an extrovert is doing and how an extrovert leads other people, which ultimately doesn't fit in line with their makeup, their beliefs, they're not being their authentic self because they're pretending to be more extroverted and outgoing um, when they're at work. And a prime example of this is probably my old boss, who when when she told me that she was an introvert, I was like, really? And everyone felt the same way because at work she puts on a completely different persona, um, but she admitted herself that when she goes home, she's exhausted. She's exhausted because she's put on this front all day at work. So then when she gets home, she's like not good for anyone, which it was quite ironic because I said, oh, she'd be my ideal client. But how do I tell my boss that you need some coaching? I don't think that would have gone down too well. So
You know,
so yeah, so
an extrovert would have just said it. Hey, you could use some help.
yeah,
I gotcha.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, so that's what
Oh,
I mean by that extroverted mask, and I hear it a lot from clients I've worked with and other people I've spoken to that they might have been in a corporate career for years, but they've always put on this persona at work, and that just doesn't fit congruently with who they are, and so therefore they probably don't massively enjoy what they're doing because they're not leading in a way that feels right for them. Um, but also, if you're not being authentic, people pick up on that, right? And
I
so
agree
then
with
you're
you a
like, well, I
hundred
don't really
percent.
trust,
Yes.
don't really trust you because I don't know who you are. One minute you're this, next minute you're that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's actually where I was going to go next was people absolutely can tell when you're being something you're not. And as a corollary to that statement, I would also say that most people will accept you for who you are if they know that it's genuine. And
Yeah.
the reason I say that is because I can be a real jerk sometimes. I know that's hard to believe because I'm so charming right now, but I can be a real jerk sometimes, just straight up. I know it too. Um,
Yeah.
but so two things. One, I've learned largely through guidance from my wife, who's an awesome person for 33 years, who says, you're so intelligent and blah blah blah. Like she's really supportive of me, which is great. But a lot of people don't listen because of the way you say it. So you've got to learn to say things in a way that's palatable to people. You're
Yes.
never going to not be able to be direct. You're never going to not be able to tell the truth. But
Mm.
there are ways you can do it that are palatable to people and they'll hear you when you say them. And she's 100% correct.
Yeah.
And thank goodness she's willing to, and she's similar. She's an introvert,
Yeah.
and is cautious, and she's crazy intelligent. It's very funny because people that don't know us and her in particular will say, well, it must be hard for you to stand up to Joe, which makes me laugh like out loud when, when someone says it because she is tough. My wife is a very tough lady and she's very intelligent. She's very feminine too. She's certainly not mannish. But
Yeah.
like if I was picking people to be on my side in a bar fight, she'd be one of my first picks because she's that
Yeah.
tough. Um,
Yeah.
but that's how she is. Like, and I see her, and I'll be interested to hear your take on this. She is so good at developing relationships over a period of time Whereas to your point, like it's easy for me to like kick in a door and command a room and everybody's like, holy cow, who's this guy?
Yeah.
And she's over in the corner talking to people and she's over developing relationships and she's finding out what makes them tick. And she's so good at it. And it's a
Yeah.
skill I don't have that she does have, and it's so
Yeah.
impressive. So how do you coach your clients that are introverts to provide the leadership that's necessary without doing it in an inauthentic way?
Yeah. So well, firstly, we kind of look at the limiting beliefs that might be holding them back. So that's another kind of massive thing that you find with introverts is our whole life, systemically, we've been told we're too quiet, we need to speak up more, we need to be more outgoing. And so your whole life, you've almost been told there's something wrong with you. You're not doing enough, you're not enough. And I think a lot of that stems from childhood. And so it's unpicking a lot of that, finding out, okay, well, where has that come from? And changing those beliefs to be more empowering rather than to limit. And so we do a lot of work on that, a lot of work on mindset, but also on what your strengths are as an individual in general, and how to utilize those strengths in a work scenario. So another one that I talk about quite a lot is getting your voice heard in meetings. So, introverts tend to listen more than they speak. And speaking up can sometimes feel quite anxiety inducing. You've got that fear of saying the wrong thing, fear of judgment from other people, fear of not being heard, from not being listened to. And in that kind of meeting environment, you have a lot of the louder individuals talking a lot because extroverts tend to um, express their thought process out loud, if that makes sense. So they process information externally, whereas introverts process it in our heads, and we will formulate what we want to say before we speak. And so one of the massive strengths of an introvert is that preparation, that research. And so what I say to my clients in terms of meetings is, right, okay, how often do you look at that agenda? I might have a little look at it before the meeting, whatever. Right, okay. But if you actually looked at that in advance and you picked out a couple of things that you're like, okay, that interests me, you did some research around it, made some notes on what your points are that you want to talk about, when you're actually in that meeting, you're going to find it much easier to speak up because you've done all of the prep work, you've done all your thought process. And so you're not then sitting in that meeting with the louder people speaking out their thought process while you're trying to internally think about what your own views are. And by the time you have done that, generally the conversation's moved on. They've gone, yeah, that's a good idea, Joe, we'll go with your idea. And then, yeah, all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, well, I've lost my opportunity to speak now. So, and it all kind of feeds into, right, well, then, the next time it happens, you probably don't speak up because you think, well, no one's going to want to hear what I've got to say anyway. And it spirals into that kind of negative self-talk that we kind of spoken about. So the other part that I always get my clients to look at is, what are you telling yourself? What is that negative self-talk? Because we're all our own worst critic, and we all whisper things to ourselves, probably unconsciously a lot of the time. But that has a massive impact on your self-confidence, especially if it's, oh, I'm rubbish at this, or I'm no good at that, or she's much better than me in this. You want to do what she wants. And that all has a massive impact because you're telling yourself that all the time. If you imagine how many thoughts you have a day, I mean, I don't even want to think about how many it is, but millions. And if a lot of those are negative, that's killing you, right? It's killing your confidence. You're telling
Hmm.
yourself that you're going to fail at something. And so your mind has a way of looking for things that's going to make that right. So you probably will fail at it because you've told yourself already that you're going to. So we look at what that negative self-talk is. I get them to kind of write that down when it comes to them, notice it a bit more. And we kind of look for some of those trends in what they're saying to themselves, which then kind of helps you unlock what some of those limiting beliefs might be. But then we challenge what those thoughts are. challenge it. Where's the evidence that says that's right? And a lot of the time it's there's no evidence. In fact, there's evidence to the contrary that you have been successful at something. But you just start listening to these stories that you tell yourself. So we do a lot of work on that so that they start to actually say more empowering things to themselves. So it's not about fake it till you make it. But if you start to say more empowering things to yourself all the time, you will then start to believe it and live those values, because that's what you're telling yourself. Your mind will look for where that's true, and then it plays out. So we do a lot of mindset work as well, around that, and having that kind of growth mindset rather than sort of fixed mindset around, oh, you're born with a certain level of skills, but you can't really ever get any better at it. Some people are just good at things and some people aren't. Whereas a growth mindset is the belief that you can always get better at something if you put the work in and you practice it. And so if you have that growth mindset around things, then you're more likely to be successful, try new things, because you have that belief that you will, improve. And actually you end up being better than someone who has a fixed mindset, but actually thinks, well, I'm just naturally good at this, because they don't massively work at it, because they're like, well, I don't need to work at it because I'm really good at it. So actually you can then outperform someone because you've put that effort in and you've, practiced and learned the way of doing something, I suppose.
I love that you coach people to look for evidence. Like, what's the evidence to support your thought
That's where that
process?
science is coming back in, right?
I love it though, because that's the same approach I take on so many different things. Like, you just said X, what's your proof?
Yeah.
And someone, like, I'll ask that and someone will say, well, there's studies. Like, which studies? You can't make a generic statement
Mm.
as support or evidence. Like,
No.
we did an episode talking about abortion statistics in the United States, and it wasn't advocating one way or another. It was
Yeah.
simply making the statistics known so that people were educated when they were having the conversation, because there are so many straw man arguments on both sides of that argument. So, for example, um, and I can't remember, I think we used 2020 or 2021 statistics that were from essentially the CDC in the United States. So they were, government validated statistics. They were
Yeah.
dependable. And one of the arguments that you hear a lot from people that advocate for abortion is, well, what about cases of rape and incest? Okay. I think that's a legitimate claim. How many women in the United States during the year we looked at had abortions
Mm.
because they were victims of rape or incest? By the way, it's less than 0.5%. So,
Right.
should it be the guiding principle of the conversation? I don't think it should, because it's such
Mm.
a tiny amount. I'm not saying we shouldn't consider it. I'm saying
Yeah.
it shouldn't be the overriding factor. Now, conversely, you like to hear people that are pro life say, well, babies are being killed in the eighth and ninth month. Okay. That seems valid to me.
Mm.
That's a concern. I'm a parent. I have a problem with that if it's happening. Now, is it
Yeah.
happening? Sure, there were instances where it were happening, but 95% of abortions performed that year were performed in the first trimester of the pregnancy. So again,
Yeah.
should it be the guiding principle of the conversation? No, it should not, because it's an outlier. We should talk about it. We should make sure it doesn't happen, but it shouldn't be
Yeah.
the deciding factor. So it's the same exact thing when it comes to self-talk, but it's harder to do because there's emotions involved, right? You've got to overcome
Yeah.
your own emotions and
Yeah.
think through things logically, which can be really hard to do.
Yeah. It is hard to do. And I think that's something that no one has ever really been taught to do, is to regulate your own emotions, because your emotions predict what your behavior is. Or if you let your emotions take
Yep.
over, it predicts your behavior, and that's then your actions. Um, so yeah, I think it's a really important thing. And I really wish that it was something they taught in school, because I think that's something that we're all missing out on, is how to regulate your own emotions and how to ground yourself and just not be reactive, to take that step back, to really think logically and then go, okay. This isn't about me. If someone
Right.
comes at you and is really angry, there's something else going on there. It's not something that I've said. There's something going on for you that I don't know what it is. And then it's about being curious about, okay, is everything all right?
Yeah.
I've definitely done that with my husband before. If he's come at me with something and I'm like, are you okay?
Oh
And then
my
he'll go,
gosh, that's
I'm really
yeah,
stressed.
we raised three boys. I don't know. I know you said you had a couple of kids. I don't know if you have boys or girls, but
I got one of each.
one of each, yeah. So we raised three sons, and I can tell you from personal experience because I was one and I raised three of them. There's no dumber life form on the face of the earth than a teenage boy. They are the dumbest life forms on the face of the earth. They'll answer you with a monosyllabic grunt. You'll ask a very pointed and detailed question. You'll get a like that's not a fucking word. Did you hear what I said? Answer my question, you idiot.
If you get a grunt, you might not even get anything, right? If they even acknowledge your existence.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And look, I know it's not politically correct, but I think men in general are more hardwired towards um, taking action and solving problems. And I don't mean that all positively either, because I
Mm,
think men a lot of times are absolutely ignorant to picking up social cues and picking up emotional cues that are just flashing with lights in front of us. And we're morons when it comes to that stuff because we get so tunnel vision on solving the problem or coming up with a solution that we ignore those things, and vice versa. I think a lot of times women are so in tune to those things that they
mm,
will, and I'm painting with a very broad brush. I get it. There's men who are super good at what I just said they're not, and there's women
yeah.
who are super good at what I'm going to say they're not.
You're
So
going to have some
before
of your
everyone,
listeners going, no, Joe,
yeah,
that's not me at
yeah,
all. How dare
before
you?
everyone comes for me, right? Like I always use, so I'm super Irish. I know it's hard to tell by looking at me, but I'm super Irish. And I always use the us Irish. Like, what are the stereotypes about us Irish? We drink, we fight, we like potatoes. Those are all true. Most Irish people like those things. Sorry, that's just how it is. Like, you can wish it wasn't true, but, it's like the old joke where there's four Catholics, there's usually a fifth. That's just how it is. And, but the whole point of my long-winded diatribe here is I love that you coach people to look deeper than just the emotion that's making them think the way that they're thinking, because I think that's so valuable.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And it is a massive part of, I think, when you explain to someone, okay, I get you, write these down. And then when we look at them and I go, how would you feel if you said that to one of your best friends? And they're like, oh, I'd be mortified. So why are you saying it to yourself then? Because you should be your best friend, right?
I
So,
love
and
that.
then they kind of go, yeah, oh shit, yeah. Hadn't thought about it like that before. And it is a real light bulb moment that goes off, and they just kind of go, yeah, okay, yeah, I am. I'm telling myself these things every single day. No wonder I feel like I'm not good enough because that's what I'm telling myself. So yeah, I think mindset's a massive, massive part um of my coaching, but then also about communication styles as well. So we kind of look at the different personality preferences and how people like to communicate. So obviously introverts is more that kind of one-to-one, or a few people rather than a big group, whereas extroverts are quite happy having that, they want more people around because that's how they get their energy for bouncing ideas off of people. So we talk again a lot about how to adapt your communication style depending on who you're talking to. So someone who is more extroverted will want just the really high level, give me top level points and just give them to me really short, sharp, and then you can go. Whereas an introvert will want all the detail. They want to know, they want to know all the facts. They want to know everything before they then formulate their own kind of decision on something. So it's about how you can um, adapt their style to kind of meet halfway. So that, because I remember again at work, we had someone who was very extroverted, and it was quite a struggle to go and speak to them, because when you would go and speak to them, not only did you feel like you were, they're like, what do you want? Like you're interrupting their flow or whatever, like, why are you bothering me? But it was also like, what you know, what sort of thing, and it was all it makes you kind of go, oh, you get flustered then because you're trying to get all your points out, but they're just thinking, just give me what is it you want. You're trying to explain it in detail because you don't want to miss anything out because they might give you some advice that is completely wrong because they don't have all that detail. So I remember then thinking, okay, right, I need to prepare more before I speak to this person. And I would go with, this is just those high level facts. And then I'll go, okay. and it would work much better. And then another kind of point as well is we, as introverts, don't particularly enjoy being put on the spot as well. And I think that, we feel like we have to give an answer, even if we haven't had time to kind of think about it. But what I always say is there is no harm in just saying, that's a really good question and I want to give that some thought. So is it all right if I come back to you once I've just had a think about it? Someone's going to go, oh, yeah, okay, good, fine. They're not going to kind of be like, oh, really? They'd much rather you come with an informed response and thoughtful response than just giving them the wrong information off the cuff. So it's just little things like that you can, another little kind of tools and stuff that I kind of help with to sort of it will works for you as an introvert, but also then it's putting those, it's making it clear for those people that you're working with how you like to work and how you like people to communicate with you. And there's nothing wrong with that. And in actual fact, those people are going to respect you more because you've explained how you want to be dealt with. And like I had a similar thing with one of my clients was struggling at work because she'd get interrupted when she was kind of with somebody else. And she felt like, why are you interrupting me? I'm doing my job. Like, I need to do this. And you're kind of interrupting that flow. So I said to her, okay, well, so what do you want that to look like? And it was kind of like, well, I want her to just, say, oh, could we have a chat? And once you're finished, sort of thing. So I said, okay, well, let's put that boundary in then. To, go and have a meeting with your boss, explain that in this scenario, I don't want you to, if you need me urgently for something, that's absolutely fine. But if it's not that you need to speak to me there and then, just say, is it all right if we have a chat once you're finished? And then I'll come and speak to you. And once she'd put that boundary in place, everything, it just worked better because they knew how she wanted to work and she was getting what she wanted as well. So it's just little things like that where you kind of look at, right, what is the challenge that you're facing? Okay, how do you want that to be? And how can we put boundary in around that so that that works for everybody? So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I love that. How do you find your clients? How do you meet your clients? Where do they find you?
So at the moment, mainly on social media, or mainly on LinkedIn, to be fair, and also networking. I do sort of women in business networking as well. So meet my kind of clients on there. But yeah, mainly at the moment it's through social media, and running webinars. So I run most recently run like a confidence webinar, and have people come along to those, and then potentially end up getting clients from that. And once they've kind of, witnessed me or because again, I think women, they don't tend to want to work with someone unless they've had that interaction with someone first, if that makes sense. They want to know a bit more about you. And but yeah, so mainly social media.
Yeah. And are your sessions in person? Does someone have to be in the UK to work with you?
No, so it's mainly online. So yeah, absolutely global. I've had a couple of clients from America already anyway. So yeah, no, as it's online, it's it's much easier, isn't it, these days? You don't need to have that person in the room. And online, it almost feels like that anyway. And you can still pick up on those kind of non-verbal cues and what might be going on for somebody that they're not telling you. So yeah.
Yeah, sure. That's great. Um, do you have any plans to put together any courses, write any books? Are you working on anything like that?
I would love to write a book. It's not something I have started, but definitely something I would like to do. And I have been thinking about putting together kind of a course that people can kind of almost buy off the shelf, if you like, around building confidence, around getting your voice heard in those meetings. So roughly around almost like the webinars that I've been doing.
Yep.
So yeah, it's definitely something that I'm thinking about going forwards. And originally I had thought about doing that kind of online course, but also a group coaching side of things. But having spoken to my clients, most people would not want to do the group space because they'd much rather do that one-to-one rather than in a group space. But that is certainly something that I would like to look at going forwards. And again, kind of getting into those businesses to really excuse me, to talk about, the strength, the skills that introverts have and what businesses could be missing out on by not, putting some of these things in place and by not overlooking them for those kind of promotion opportunities. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm going in the future.
I love it. That's great stuff. Yeah, it's the group coaching thing seems like a good deal for the coach, not so much for the client,
Yeah.
at least from my perspective. And then like it's different than a mastermind group though, right? So that's a group where you've got people that are at similar levels that are coming together to talk about shared experiences, tips, problem solving. So like let's say you all invest in real estate or you all run
Mm,
marathons or whatever, I don't know.
yeah.
But that's very different. I agree with you that the one-on-one coaching seems like a better use. But like if you did your webinars and built those into a course, then you could
Yeah.
catch more people, right? Like you could help more people if
Yeah.
you did it that way.
Yeah, definitely. So
Yep.
yeah, definitely something to think about going forwards. Um, and yeah, I've got sort of a Facebook group as well, so I'm building a bit of a Facebook community, so that you have got those. So I can see, having a community is beneficial for individuals because although introverts tend to be those what you call lurkers that are kind of taking all of that information and that content in but not really engaging with it. It's still hopefully helping people because they're still taking that information in and putting it into practice. Just because perhaps they're not engaging with you doesn't mean that you're shouting into an empty room as such. But yeah, so again, that's something that I will continue to do and to invite people into that group so that they've got that community in that space. If you just to almost see that you're not alone, you're not alone. Lots of people feel very similar. Um, and things like imposter syndrome and all those kind of things, they're all what everyone at some point will go through and will experience. And it's normal. You're not abnormal for feeling those things. Um, but it's just about how you can what you can put in place to notice it when it's happening and to sort of stop it in its tracks. And again, a lot of that comes around to that sort of mindset and what you're telling yourself. And so important to include self-care in that as well, because I think a lot of people forget about self-care. It's almost like an afterthought, isn't it? Whereas it should be something that you plan in to your calendar, and do regularly to to fill your cup, as it were.
Mm. When you say self-care, give some examples of self-care things people could or could should think about or could do.
Yeah, so it's things like, it could be it's things like a spa day, things like journaling is another good one as well, just journaling down your thoughts, getting things out of your head. Um, excuse me. Meditating, stuff like that. What else? Just reading books, listening to music, all of those kind of things that you tend to enjoy doing. You don't always do, like creative break doing being creative and painting, all those kind of things. It's just little things that you might enjoy but you've perhaps not been doing because you felt like you don't have the time to do it, or that it's wasting your time, you should be doing something else. And it's just getting back in touch with that again, because actually you're filling up your energy, and that can only be a good thing, because what they call it, like sharpening your sword almost, to go back and, with renewed focus, etc. So it is important.
Yeah,
And it might be
I would
running, could
throw,
be
I'd
running
throw.
and stuff like that, going to the gym. Some people find that their self-care. Certainly not mine, but mine is horse riding. That's my self-care. I do that every week, because that's something that I enjoy. So yeah, but not not going to the gym and not running.
If we see you running, we should run too because there's something chasing you, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'll be running
I
from something.
exactly. Yes, exactly. I always throw sleep in there too because there's like this
Yeah.
culture of, hey, I'm so awesome. I only get 4 hours of sleep a night. Well, good for you. I don't care. Like, it's not good for
No,
you. Your brain resets itself and
no.
cleans itself when you sleep. You need between 6 and 8 hours. Most,
Yeah.
like, if you're the 0.5% that doesn't, good for you, but I bet you're not
Mm,
because I can do
no.
math and I would like, there's too many people that say that for it to be
Yeah.
0.5%. And sleep is such a valuable part. It
Mm,
allows you to enact all of these things that Jill has shared, on the mindset tips and the self talk
mm,
and the overcoming imposter syndrome and all the things we talk about. When your mind is strong and refreshed, it's easier to do those things. And the way you do that is getting
mm.
enough sleep. And if you're not
Yeah.
sleeping enough, shame on you. You need to sleep enough. Get enough
Yeah.
sleep. It's a huge part of your life. So
Definitely. And eat
my
well as
shame.
well, right?
Yeah, right.
Eat
Exactly.
healthily.
Exactly. So so I've asked you a ton of questions. We've covered a ton of ground. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you feel is important to talk about? Are there any or subjects that you want to make sure we talk about while we're here in front of the audience?
I would say, it so a lot of people kind of say, well, how do you build confidence? How do you, feel confident? And I think a lot of people think that you need to have all the answers for things to be confident, which isn't true at all. You just need to have courage in order to build confidence. You need courage to take action, courage to give things a go, courage to be crap at something for the first time. Because, if it's something you've never done before, you probably are not going to be very good at it. And you've got to be open to that, to not be good at something, because the only way you can get better is by doing it and learning from it and doing it some more and practice and practice. And that's how you get better. So, the biggest tip I can give anyone is to start taking action. If you want to get better at something, if you want to build your confidence, you've got to start taking action. You can't just keep going, oh, well, I want to be more confident, and then never doing anything about it. And yeah, that's the only way you can build it, is by taking those action steps, but also breaking those steps down so that they're small enough so that you feel able to take them, and they're not so overwhelming and scary that you're like, oh, I couldn't possibly do that. Like, if one of your goals is that you want to do public speaking, your first step is not going to be go and, present to a group of 20 people, because that will feel too much. But it might be, just standing up and talking to one other person, or talking to yourself in the mirror, those kind of things. It starts somewhere, and you have to then build on that, and stretch out of your comfort zone, because that is what they say, that's where the magic happens, that's where you grow, that's where you get better. And if you stay in your comfort zone, you're never going to improve, because you are just staying safe and cozy, and warm where you are. Um, so yeah, take action and surround yourself with people that believe in you, because if you don't quite believe in yourself yet, like I didn't when I first started my business, I surrounded myself with people who believed in me until I started to believe in myself. And that's a massive one. Just making sure that you have got someone there that holds space for you and believes in you. And as a coach, that's what I believe for all of my clients. I believe that you have the ability to make all these changes. It's all within you. And I'm only there to ask you the right questions, to think about things from a different perspective. That's my role. But my belief is that you are capable of doing all of these things. And I will believe in you until you start to believe in yourself. So that's probably one of the bigger ones that I would say. And yeah, we've already talked about setting boundaries around your time and how you like to work. Um, because at the end of the day, if you're not looking after your own needs, then who's taking care of you?
Mhm.
So you need to look after yourself and
I
take
love it.
care of what you need.
Such good advice. Oh my gosh, we covered such good ground. I just really appreciate your approach. It's organized, it's very clear and backed up with examples. And yeah, I think it's awesome. And look, if you're looking for someone to help, I know we talked about Jill working or targeting, I guess is a better way to say it, targeting female leaders. Let's assume for a second you're not a female leader. Let's assume you're a male leader. You could do a lot worse than working with Jill. Think about all the great advice and great tips. These are actionable things. That's what I love about your approach, Jill, is it's
Mm.
not esoteric. It's not foo-foo. It's, hey, here is how you can make differences. Here's how you can change things in your life.
Yeah,
Take these actions, do these things, think these
yeah,
thoughts, take these steps. And
yeah,
you're not telling people what to do, you're giving them tools to use in their own life. And I think it's super
yeah.
valuable. So if you're looking for someone, reach out to Jill. That's what I'm telling you.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Absolutely. Well, Jill, so look, hey, look, let's keep in touch. I'd love to revisit our
yeah,
conversation and have you back on somewhere down the road. Maybe,
definitely.
maybe you write your book. Maybe you put your course together and we could talk about that when you
Yeah.
come back on. But just absolutely love what you shared with the audience. Did a great job. And here is a shining example of an introvert who has taken on a bunch of different things, gotten out of her comfort zone, and built a really
Yeah.
successful business and a really successful life for herself. So look no further than Jill if you're looking for an example. But thank you so much, Jill, for coming on the program. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It's been really good. I really enjoyed it.
Good. I'm glad. I'm glad you did a great
Yeah.
job. Really appreciate you sharing everything with our audience.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Well, have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
All right. Yeah, Jill, great job. Holy cow, you did good.
Thank you.
Yeah, just really, really appreciate it. I love your approach and you're direct but pleasant about it. And yeah, like I love it. I hope folks that see your episode look you up because I think you can help a lot of people just the way you're doing it. So really good
Yeah,
stuff.
thank you.
Really
Oh,
good
that's nice
stuff.
to hear. Thank you very much. And thank you
Sure.
for asking all those questions as well. I remember saying to you, we're really going to be talking for that long, but it's just gone so quickly, hasn't it? It does go really fast. So.
Yeah, there is no time limit. For whatever reason, it seems like that hour and a half is kind of the sweet spot where
Yeah,
it's a very natural and easy conversation. There's lots of good stuff to talk about, and then you get to a point where it's like, okay, I think we might have covered everything we want to cover. And I don't know
yeah,
why that hour and a half seems to be the number, but that's about where we wind
yeah,
up most times.
yeah. No, it's good. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being so welcoming and having me on.
Oh, for sure. No, loved it. I think it's great for our audience. I think there's a ton of value there. So thank you so much for sharing it with them.
Yeah, that's all right. And as long as I've helped one person, that's my job done, as far as I'm concerned. If anyone
Totally.
actions anything from that and takes something away, then that's what matters the most, isn't it? That people make those changes and take those action steps. So
Yeah,
yeah.
totally. So
Excellent.
well, we're good. Thank you so
Yeah,
much, Jill.
thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. We will send you the postcard that we put together that James, I say we, I don't do a thing with it. James does it all, but that James puts together to promote your episode. We'll send you the file. We'll send you the clips ahead
Yeah.
of the 22nd when your episode airs.
Yeah, lovely. And then you want me to send you a headshot and any links and stuff for my business. Do you want me to wait until you sent me that file, or do you just want me to send that as soon as?
Send it whenever you can. Yeah, because James
All
will
right.
use your headshot to put together the postcard.
All right,
It's
lovely. I shall
it's
sort that
funny.
out.
The guy that does our promotion, he's doctored. I guess I'm not pretty enough because he took a picture of me and doctored it all up so it doesn't look anything like me. And that's what he uses to promote Salty Ginger Talk. And then we use whatever headshot our guest sends for their episode.
Yeah, well, actually, I'd love to start a podcast at some point as well. Did you find it quite an easy thing to start up, or do you need lots of tech to do it?
No, not at all. I spent maybe $500. I got a decent camera. I got a decent microphone. For me, it's invaluable to have James because he is very good at editing. He has a
Mm.
background. He was a reporter actually in the Philippines and worked in radio and television in the Philippines. So
Yeah,
having him available and he literally runs that part of the business. So that was super helpful for me.
yeah,
But in terms of the content, it's very easy for me. This is exactly how I am all the time, and I've been in leadership roles for 30 plus years, and I've been in front of people talking since I was a kid.
yeah,
Like I was the student body president at my high school, so I regularly ran assemblies with 3,000 people in them when I was 17 years old, and
yeah,
I've always been very comfortable with that. So for me, it was not challenging, but I would just encourage you if you're going to do it, pick a topic and like go deep on that topic.
yeah,
Don't stray. Like ours wound up being kind of personal accountability and personal responsibility, and that's what we do. But like whatever it is for you, just pick that. Don't try to don't
yeah,
what I call spray and pray. Don't
yeah,
do a whole bunch of stuff and see if it works. Do one thing and just go after it. And maybe you do that for 3 months and you go, you know what, this sucks. I want to do it. Then pivot. That's okay. Not the end of the world.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Hmm. Yeah. But it's easy to set up and everything like that.
Yeah. Not hard at all. Not hard at all.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Nothing to think about then. I'll add it to
Yeah.
my list.
Exactly. Exactly. Put it on the potentially to do list.
The potentially to-do list is getting very long.
Yeah. I know how that goes too. Yeah. I know how that goes too.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, no, it's funny actually because I'm also looking to do some in-person kind of almost like a self-care day. So with some of the other kind of businesses that I've met with my networking, I was thinking about, some people don't want to do like a spa day or something like that, but actually coming along to a day where they get mindset tips, where they might be able to get their makeup done, maybe get their hair done, all these sort of things that can help kind of lift you up and build your confidence. It's just like an alternative to a spa day. So that's something that I'm looking at maybe doing in sort of end of September.
Yeah, that's very cool. I'd love to hear how it goes. If you wouldn't mind sharing, because I'm looking at doing something similar for fathers. Because
Yeah,
when I started the podcast, it was targeted towards young men in particular. It's expanded to kind
yeah,
of everybody saying, hey, you have control over your life. You're just not taking it. So it's time for you to take
yeah,
control of your life. But I'd still love, like in the United States, I just think there's a lot of young men that don't have good father figures. And I think there's a
yeah.
lot of fathers who aren't quite sure how to do it. And, I think like I did an episode on why traditional masculinity is good and necessary, but I was very specific about how I talked
Mm,
about it because I think when people hear that, it turns into, oh, you're a Neanderthal and you don't, value women.
mm,
And that's false. That's not traditional
yeah,
masculinity in any way, shape, or form. If you are really being a good man, you are lifting your spouse and lifting
yeah,
women as well. And you're providing leadership and security and
yeah,
there's ways to do both of those things and
yeah,
also sitting down and shutting up when it's time and letting your wife or whoever the other person is in your life or the female that's in your life take the lead in certain
mm,
situations because they should take the lead, like you talked
yeah,
about, right? You're missing out if you're
yeah,
not tapping the introverts on the shoulder and going, hey, it's your turn to run this thing.
yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah. Oh, that's really good. It's
Yeah.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all exciting things, isn't it?
Good stuff. Think about it. Again, I never would have, you would have told me that I'd have been doing a podcast and this kind of podcast even a year ago. I'd have been like, nah, no, never happened. I don't know what the hell you're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah. But you can tell how much you enjoy it as well. So it's funny, isn't it? It's how opportunities bring, new things to your door.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow, taking
Totally.
one small step like me, taking that secondment out of my, my normal role has now led me to start my own business. How different it could have been had I not done that. I probably would have been burnt out and I don't know, ill by now. So yeah. I'm
Yeah,
thankful for that.
it's wild, but I agree. I love that you said you got to take action. Like when you ended at the end of the podcast, you talked about you've got to take action. It'll lead you somewhere. I just love that message. We say it a lot, and I
Mm.
love how you delivered it and unprompted. So, yeah, like I just think it's such good advice.
Yeah, yeah. And so many people, don't they? They pay for courses, they pay for these things, but they don't actually implement anything. And it's like, well, why would you waste your money? What's the point in all this knowledge if you're not going to put it into practice?
It's my favorite question. What are you doing about it? What are you doing about
Yeah,
it?
exactly. Yeah,
Yep.
good. I like it.
Yeah.
Oh no,
Good
I
stuff.
definitely will definitely stay in touch.
Yeah, for sure. I really appreciate it.
Lovely. Well, thank you again. Thanks for having me on. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night and have a great week.
You too. Take care of yourself.
All right. See you, Jill. Okay, guys, like we said, Jill just killed it. She did such a good job. Talked about how she got into the forensic field and the path she followed that led her to think about and start her own business when that had never, ever been a goal of hers and never, ever been something that she had thought about previously in her life. And talked about all the things that were going on when it happened too, and that she had to take action and push and get out of her comfort zone to build something that was important to her. And look at what she's doing. Like she's super successful at it. You can tell she's got a passion about it. She gave such great tips and great actionable items all throughout the podcast. I hope you took notes. If you didn't, go back and watch it again and take notes when you do it. So we're going to continue to find awesome guests like Jill. And we just really thank her for coming on and sharing all of her knowledge and wisdom and just doing a great job for our audience. So James puts it up over here every day. Don't forget to head to our website, saltygingertalk.com. All the podcast episodes are available there. Links to all the social media accounts are available there. We've got a newsletter we publish every weekday. You can subscribe to there. And please like, share, comment, subscribe to the podcast or whatever platform you consume it on. We're going to continue to find awesome people. We're going to continue to give you great tips on how to build the life that you want. You don't want to miss any of that stuff. Make sure you catch the next episode. We will see you there.